Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well and having a fantastic week. In today's video, I wanted to talk about some of the dangers associated with bird leg rings and bands. It's something that's not always talked about, but based on an experience we had recently with baby Olive, once again, I wanted to share, what we've learned and also just reiterate some things to really be mindful of because they do have risks, as with, most things in life. But I think it's really important to be aware of these ones just in case something similar happens to you. And I want to apologise in advance if the lighting's really weird in this video, but we are due a thunderstorm like any minute and it's really dark today, so we're just going to roll with it. So we'll get straight into some things about leg bands. So some people call them leg bands, some people call them leg rings. It doesn't really matter, I'll probably use them interchangeably in this video. And there are two kind of types of leg ring. So there's a closed one and an open one. Now, closed leg rings are put on to chicks when they're very small, so the ring can actually go over their foot and onto their leg, and then as the bird grows, the ring then can't come off of their leg and over their toes. That's the most common one that's used with breeders, and it usually helps breeders tell apart the different chicks, so they'll have either different numbers or different colours on. The other type is called an open ring, and it's not technically open, although if you put it on wrong then there will be an opening, but it's put on when the bird is older and it's kind of put around and then tightened like that, so it's put on afterwards. These are normally done either because somebody wants some identification on their bird or because they want to put like a phone number on there if they're a free flyer, something like that, but those are the two types. Now these bird rings, leg rings, come in different types of materials, and most commonly there's plastic, aluminium and steel. More commonly it is metal that is used, and for some plastic rings some birds can get quite irritated and some have been known to actually chew them off. For metal ones they can cause some problems, and I'm going to go into the few problems now because it's really good to be aware of them, because while they could be good for identification and if your bird gets out, that kind of thing, they're actually not that necessary, and I wanted to go through a few of the things that can go wrong with them. So typically when the correct size ring is put onto your bird's leg, there shouldn't be much room for anything to kind of get past. However, there have been many reported cases of birds getting stuck onto toys, onto toy parts, because it gets caught. I mean, imagine my hairband here is a good example, underneath the ring, and then they can't get off, or it hooks around and it gets stuck, and then your bird ends up being attached to this toy, which is very dangerous. So it's always good to have a pair of wire cutters in your homes, easily accessible. I've got some, I got them on Amazon the other day. It gives me peace of mind that I know that if something goes wrong, I can go and cut the toy from the bird and then deal with any kind of first aid or issues then. Something else that can go wrong is when a smaller leg ring is put onto a bird than is required, and as the bird grows the leg ring is getting tighter and tighter and tighter until the point where it actually starts to cut into your bird's leg or foot, and obviously this is very, very uncomfortable for your bird. It's going to cause infections, grazes, that kind of thing, so it's something we want to avoid at all costs. It's really good to just be really aware of how much space is between your bird's leg and the leg ring. So you're wondering, well, what's the story with baby Olive? Well, one day I looked at her and I was thinking, why do her little feet look so naked? And it's because her leg ring somehow managed to get up and over the ankle joints and then up onto her upper leg and got stuck. I have no idea how it happened. She doesn't really hang upside down too much. I don't think it was that. It's really hard to know. I'll put a picture here so you can kind of see like where it got stuck. It was really unusual. But we were lucky in the sense that where it had gone there were some feathers underneath, which was kind of providing a bit of cushioning, so we knew we had to get it cut off, but at least it wasn't cutting into her at the exact moment. So what we had to do was go to the vets, and we went in and we handed her over to them and they were having a look at it. They did manage to manoeuvre it in such a way, by stretching her leg very gently of course, that it got down to where it's supposed to be, but we knew obviously if it could get up there once, it could get up there again. So we opted to have it cut off. Now most vets will normally try and cut off a leg ring with a special leg ring cutter, and this normally works for sort of thin metal and plastic. And unfortunately for baby Olive, hers was quite a thick metal, which meant that we had no other choice but to have her go under anaesthetic to have it sawn off. And at this point I was an anxious mess, because if you don't know already, anaesthetic can be quite risky for birds because they have such an efficient gas exchange in their respiratory system. And I've got a bit more information on bird respiratory systems in a video I made. I'll put a card at the top, link down below as well, and you can learn a little bit more about that. but it's really important to weigh up the risks and be aware of what could go wrong with anaesthetic. But we were reassured by our vet, weren't we, that the type that he was going to use, which is called sevoflurane, was a good choice. It gets her under anaesthetic very quickly and it can get her out very quickly. He's very confident because she's a very healthy bird. The risks to her were very low, but obviously with, you know, my background and what I know, there's always that risk. So we were very, very cautious, weren't we? Also, the longer that a bird is under anaesthetic, the more risk there is. They wanted to get it done nice and quickly, but obviously safely as well. So we left her at the vet's and we went walking around the town centre for about 25 minutes, half an hour. Very, very anxious, but then we got the call to say she was out of anaesthetic, she'd recovered fine, and she was good to come and be collected, and we did. And she was a little bit grumpy at the start, but she was an absolute superstar in the car. The first time we went in the car with her, she did not like it, but she was very calm. And we got her home, she had a little bit of water and a little bit of snack, and then she was absolutely fine. She was dancing, she was chatting. I'd really love to get her chatting on camera one time, but she always stops the second I get it out because she wants to bite my phone. But she can say all kinds of words, she's learning new words as well, it's really funny. But we were really relieved that it was such a smooth experience, theoretically, although I'm gonna go and get her ring now. So I think this is focused. Apologies, because again, weird lighting and all sorts. But you may be able to see that it was a bit of a job to actually get this leg ring off. Now, she was left with a very kind of minor bruise, kind of graze thing on her leg after getting it off, because it looked like it was quite a hard job. The vet really did have to saw it off because it was very thick metal, but she's totally fine. It's not bothering her at all, and she's a very happy little baby now. Always causing us trouble, aren't you? Say hi, everyone. Hiya. Good girl, you're so smart. Now, one thing I do want to say to you is to never try and cut a leg ring or band off at home, because it's very easy to go wrong. If your bird starts moving around or wriggling, or you're not confident doing it, it can go wrong very, very easily. It's much, much safer to get it done at the vet's. Saying that, of course, as with anything at the vet's, it's much more expensive. Now, for us, obviously I can't speak for everyone in the world, for us, a consultation with our avian vet is £80. But the whole appointment for us on that day, for the actual appointment itself, the extra time, and the cost of the sevoflurane, because they charge you, you know, by the minute for any kind of gases and things like that, was £166 for the privilege of getting Olive's ring off. And, you know, we had to do it, of course, and we don't begrudge paying to, you know, get specialist services, but it is something to bear in mind that something as theoretically simple as that is going to cost a fair bit of money. Now, Pickles and Scampy do still have their leg rings on. It is my intention to get them cut off at some point, but whilst they're okay, I'm not rushing, but I'm always mindful about you know, checking that they're in the right place and that there's no potential risks for that, because obviously it's very expensive and there's still the risk of putting birds under anaesthetic. So we're keeping an eye on things. I probably will get them cut off at some point, but I just wanted to mention that in case you wonder why they still got theirs on when Olive's has come off. And as with any video I make, this is not intended to scaremonger anyone to rush out to the vets, get all their leg rings cut off, anything like that. I just want to let you guys know what happened with us, because hopefully you can learn from it and you can maybe be a little bit more mindful about leg rings and whether your bird needs to have one on, or just being mindful about their space and, you know, any risks where they could get caught on it, because they are, in my opinion, unnecessary for breeders. If any breeders are watching, please stop using leg rings. I beg you, please stop using leg rings. There's another alternative that you can do to tell apart your chicks, and that is to use a little bit of vegetable food colouring. So it's totally safe for birds, not going to hurt them. Just put a little dollop on their head or on their back, and you can use a different colour for each chick, and then you know, and then when they molt, it's going to come out and then they're going to be fine. There's no risk to them in that regard. But using leg rings is a problem. Again, I spoke to my vet while we were there, and, you know, he does see a lot of cases of leg rings going wrong, so it's probably better not to have them. Now, for anyone who's kind of clued up on endangered species and things, there are some legislation like CITES and things like that where certain species of bird need to have some kind of identification. So things like African greys, I think probably blue-throated macaws, a few different species of Amazon. I'll see if I can leave the actual list if you want to have a little look at what species are on CITES. But African greys are the most common, and they don't have to have a leg ring. I think some people think they do, but from my understanding, they don't have to have a leg ring. They either have to have a leg ring or have a microchip. And yes, even small birds can be microchipped. I know green cheek conures have been microchipped. Again, we didn't opt for that on that day. I don't know what the cost is, so I'm afraid I can't share that information, but they do have to be under anaesthetic, I believe, to have it done. It's about the size of a grain of rice, but I think smaller birds need to have just a little bit of a painkiller and anti-inflammatory for a few days after it's gone in, because it's a little bit bigger compared to obviously bigger birds, and I believe it normally goes in sort of the wing muscle just there. So that's an option. You can get your birds microchipped. Again, you do need to go to an avian vet to get this done. Don't just go to your dog or cat vet, because they're not going to be able to do it, and you want to make sure your bird is being seen by a specialist who knows what they're doing. But yes, you can get your bird microchipped as an alternative to identification. It's also good just to have lots of high quality photos of your birds. If anything was to go wrong, you can have these really clear images of any of their identifying features as well. So I think it's a better alternative than having something like a leg ring, because I didn't foresee this happening with Olive. You know, obviously I knew the risks from them, but I just didn't expect it to happen to our birds. So now I know I can share that information with you guys, and you can make decisions on whether you'd like to keep leg rings on your birds, and you can go forward with that. But I just wanted to share what happened. Yet again, another vet trip with baby Olive, but she was an absolute superstar. She did bite the vets when they were restraining her, bless her, but obviously it's a little bit of an uncomfortable experience, but she was such a superstar with the anaesthetic, and I was really, really pleased about that. That's because she's a very healthy bird on a healthy diet, lots of exercise and enrichment and things like that. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video interesting. I'd love to know your thoughts about leg rings and bands. If you and your bird have had any unpleasant experiences, please, I'd love to know what's happened with you and how you resolve things. If you've had great experiences with leg bands, I'd still love to hear from you and your opinions. If you've had microchips, let's all get involved in the comments, because I really want to gather quite a lot of information about what people have experienced, because I can only share what we have experienced. But I'm just so glad that we got the leg ring off of her, and she's totally fine now. She's currently sitting on top of the cockatiel cage, and she's got a little foot tucked up because it's a little bit darker today. So thank you so much for watching once again. Take care and see you later.